Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and I tried to do a quick recap or chart on easy Straightwire sequence as easy as possible. However, all this information is covered in our Straightwire course, which is available on demand. But the Straightwire course, I'm just letting you know, there's nothing special about it except for you get CE, and it's just a very condensed version of the Straightwire content that we already have available for free in YouTube. So there's nothing, again, I repeat, I'm not trying to sell the course. You can get the exact same information just by going through our YouTube videos in our Straightwire channel playlist. However, there's like a lot more content in there, and the course is like a finely curated snippets in a logical order, plus you get CE. So personally, I think for the value, you get 14 units of CE, and I made it as cheap as humanly possible that they would let me make it, given that I have to pay for these credits. So it's really not like a profit puppy for me. It's really more for you guys because you guys asked for it. So whether you take the course or whether you work your way through the Straightwire videos, the hundreds of Straightwire videos in my playlist, you will get the information either way, free or paid. I do that on purpose because I want dentists in countries where they cannot afford, maybe they don't have the standard of living the US has, to still be able to get the information. So anyways, so this is just a quick highlight because some of you are still not getting it. I'm working with some of you guys on cases, and just a friendly reminder that we do offer support at Straightsmile Solutions on your case. You can just do a case, or you can do a month at a time. You can do multiple months at a time on all your cases. And it doesn't just have to be braces. It can be phase one. It can be aligners. It can be Invisalign. It can be ClearCorrect. It can be whatever. Or we can just help you with diagnosis even if you don't know what it is. It can be a new case, it can be a progress case, it can be a case that got screwed up, and you want help with it. Trust me, we're all about the screw ups. All of us screw up. I screwed up, you guys screw up. We're here to help you get out of your screw up. So there's nothing to be embarrassed about if you have an oopsie case. Let's just help you get out of it. Okay, so I'm going to try to hit the highlights, but again, all this information is already covered in our Straightwire course and our Straightwire video. So highlights. If you memorize this, it's going to make it a lot easier. First of all, case selection. Not all cases should be braces cases. Some are better to be aligner cases. Some need some phase one first, or some functional appliances first if their kids are teens, before you put on the braces. So don't just slap braces on. Make sure it's actually a braces case. Secondarily, you really should be using indirect bonding. In the US, Canada, it's easy. It's available in the EU and Australia. Even orthodontists use indirect bonding because sometimes it's hard for us to stand on our heads. That ensures the brackets go on perfectly. They're going to use the x-rays to make sure it's exactly perfectly done. It's digitally placed. You're going to virtually approve the treatment plan of the brackets online. That way the bracketing has already been done virtually, and your assistant in most states and countries can do the bracketing as long as you're in the room. It just makes life a lot easier. That way you know the bracketing is right. And if you're working with us on a case, we will help you verify that it's done right. If you're in the US, I have some great companies I work with that do IDB that are very affordable. Reach out to me at Straightsmile Solutions, info@straightsmilesolutions.com, and I'll be glad to refer you. So that's the first step. Do not try to direct bond. All you guys who are doing direct bond, you're just adding 6 to 12 months onto your plan because you're going to have to repose, and it's going to be a complete waste of time. That $300 to $500 that you would have spent, and that includes the brackets and the transfer trays and the digital planning, is literally, think of how much your chair time is. You guys are nuts that you're trying to direct bond. Every time I work with a doctor who direct bonds, unless they've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases, it's a waste of time. Okay. Do not put, you can see they put the bracket on this tooth here. If a tooth is blocked out, unless you can put the bracket on perfectly, you're sure it goes on perfectly, don't put it on. And even if it's blocked out, if there's no place to move it yet, don't engage it in the wire because all it's going to do is cause damage to the tooth and root. Okay, just bypass it. That's the first tip. Indirect bonding and skip blocked out teeth. Don't engage teeth that are blocked out. Step 2. And again, if you have transverse issues that are skeletal, these need to be addressed before the bracketing. That means you put your expanders in first, okay? If there is massive AP issues, not like 1 or 2 millimeters that can be fixed with elastics, but massive AP issues like you need to grow an upper jaw or grow a lower jaw, you do that first. first before the braces go on first. You use your Invisalign with MA, you use your twin block, you use your expander and your face mask. So transverse issues and AP issues are addressed first before the braces go on. So I'm assuming if you're putting braces on, you've got a nice class 1 case. It could be 1 or 2 millimeters class 2. It cannot be class 3. It should not have any skeletal crossbites. It can have a single tooth dental crossbite, anterior or posterior. If it's more than that, you didn't do a good treatment plan. You didn't do good case selection for braces. So you need to go fix that, okay? Put the biggest possible round wire in that you can fully engage in the slot. This is not that hard. There's 12, there's 14, there's 16, there's 18. Of course, a lot of it depends on if you're using 018 or 022 slot size. I'm assuming you're using 022 slot size because that's the most common. It's the easiest to work with and the easiest to train on. Most of my doctors are using 022. I personally like 018, but that's only because I'm very experienced and it's easy for me to do the mechanics and fill the slot. But I don't want you guys to do that. That's something I worked myself into over time. I was trained in 022, then I switched to 018 later as I got more experience. If you are using 018, it's okay, but it's just a different mindset. So everything I teach to in my videos is 022 because that's what most dentists are using. So biggest possible round wire. So if a mouth is super crowded, of course, if it's a kid or a teen, I'm probably going to put expanders in first. But if the mouth is super crowded, I'm going to put the biggest possible round wire in. So it's probably going to be 12 or 14. If it's not that crowded, it's probably going to be 16 or 18. When I say fully engaged, that means the wire has to go fully in the slot, like the entire slot. If it's not all the way in with a steel tie or a figure 8 on, you pick the too big of a wire. You need to go back a wire and do it over again. So if you start tying it in and you notice there's no way you can get it in, even with a ligature pitchfork and a figure 8, then you need to take that wire out and put the lighter wire in, okay? Because it's just not doing the right stuff. Let that wire cook for 8 to 10 weeks. Obviously, if something breaks, they need to come in, but otherwise that wire stays in the mouth. It should be fully engaged. Stay in that wire. Don't change that wire. Don't you guys get in too much of the habit of, oh, I got to change a wire every time the patient comes in. No, you don't. 8 to 10 weeks, see you in 2 months. By then you should probably be changing a wire, but you might not be. If you did a really good job engaging things, there might be one more sequence of appointments in that wire. Don't change that wire until that wire is passive. If it still looks active and it's wiggly up and down and in and out and still, then you stay in that wire and just change the ties and make them more active again. If you're using steel ties, then you don't have to do anything. If you're using self-ligating brackets, you don't have to do anything. Oh, wow, looks good, come back. I mean, that's where you should be using virtual monitoring because they don't even need to come in the office. That's a complete waste of time and a waste of chair time. If the wire is passive, then you can change the wire. Again, repeat, use the biggest possible wire you can fully now get in the slot. So if you started with 14, then maybe now you're in 18. The goal is to get to 18 if you can, okay? And to have 18 be passive. So don't change the wire until it's level. Try to make 018 the second wire, but if not, you can just work up. You don't have to go 12, 14, 16, 18. You can go 14 and then 18. Probably can't go 12 and then 18. You can go 12, 16, 18. You can go 14, 18. You can go 16, 18. Use this wire, the 018, for vertical issues. So if you got a severe deep bite, you obviously should have had this figured out in the diagnostics. What type of deep bite is this? How are you going to fix it? Just like you already fixed the transverse issues and you already fixed the AP issues, you should know how to fix the vertical issues. Is this an issue where you're going to need relative extrusion of molars and premolars to fix a deep bite? Or is this an issue with over eruption of either upper or lower or both incisors? You should know the answer to this. You get this answer from the photos as well as the cephalometric x-ray and the cephalometric numbers. If you have vertical issues or AP issues, it is standard of care to take a ceph and get ceph numbers. You have no business doing a braces case like this if you don't have the right diagnostics. That's below standard of care. It's going to get you in trouble with the dental board or the insurance company. So if you just have a mild deep bite, at this stage, you can always put on an anterior bite plate or anterior bite turbos and use some posterior box elastics. That's what these acronyms, fixed bite plate, anterior bite turbos, posterior box elastics, to fix the vertical issues at this stage. I have a ton of content about this in my channel. You can look up any of these acronyms or type out those words and you will find them. Stay in the 018 and work on the vertical until the vertical is slightly overcorrected. Then at this stage, we're going to do the look and check, which is where We are just checking all the teeth. Is it totally 100% straight? I mean, like 100% straight, every single tooth. And then you're going to look at the symmetry. And I have a lot of videos on symmetry. Look at your ones, look at your twos, right and left. Do they look exactly the same? Then once you do that, you're going to bring the patient in. Hey, patient, what do you feel about the position of these teeth? Would you want some of these teeth to go up and down or in and out? And a lot of times they have opinions. This right here, step 3, is the time where you bring the patient in, not at step 6. Yeah, you do also at step 6, but you better have addressed it at step 3. Otherwise, you just wasted 6 to 12 months, because if they didn't like something, and a lot of it is art, not just science, they should have a say in it. I think my canines are too low. I think my laterals are too high. I really wanted these central incisors a little bit more level with the laterals. They might see things you don't see, and some of their stuff might not be right, and you might not be able to do what they say they're going to do, but you can try, and you can let them know. At least you address it, because you don't want that to be brewing and boiling up in there every time they look in the mirror. God, I hate the way that, does this doctor know what he's doing? Why does this look like this? All the way to this, and then they finally speak up, and you just have another 12 months of treatment. This is the time to address it. So I make a big deal here. I say, hey, we're Hollywooding here. I want you to take this month. I want you to go home. I want you to show your friends, your family. This is where I want your feedback. This is an art as much as the science. If there's something you don't like in terms of how your teeth are positioned in your mouth, this is the time where I need to know. I need to know it now. This is a speak now or forever hold your peace situation. So take the time. Don't just put them on the spot in the office, because they're probably going to say, oh, it's good. And then later they're going to like, shoot, I should have said something, and it's going to brew and boil, and you're going to hear about it here. And then now you just wasted 12 months. So this is the time, and you give them the entire month to weigh in. This is where they got to ask their friends and their family, and they tell, especially if they're a kid or a teen. And you make sure you bring the parents into this conversation. You don't just tell the kid to tell their friends. You bring the parents in, say, this is the time where I want you guys to take a look. Any questions, concerns? I may not be able to do everything the way you want to, just because sometimes bites don't work like that, but I'm going to do my best to make you happy with the aesthetics of it. This is the time when I want your feedback. Okay, so assuming step 3, everything is now totally level, aligned, symmetrical, and everyone's happy with how straight it is. It should be like textbook perfect straight. No questions. And by now, any AP issues are already addressed, except for maybe a mild class 2. Transverse issues have been addressed, and vertical issues should be addressed. It should be a slam dunk finish at this point, because you've done all the hard stuff, okay? Step 4. Don't move on until step 4, until both the patient and doctor are 100% happy with alignment and symmetry. Keep rebracketing and repeating steps 2 and 3 until both are satisfied, okay? So this is where you're gonna go ahead and take a pano, okay? And you're gonna double check. So get the stuff at eye level done first, then take the pano and make sure all your roots are parallel and upright. If a root is tipped with mesial or distal root tip, this is the time you need to rebracket it. Now, sometimes when you take a pano, you get that kind of artifact and things look like they're tipped and not really. So you could always, if it doesn't make sense, don't just go through for the pano. If it looks great in the mouth and it doesn't make sense, take a PA to verify it, because sometimes weird things happen. Of course, if you did indirect bonding and you brought the patient in on the setup and they could see things and you like the setup, you shouldn't be having the issues here. Only reason you'd have the issues here is if a patient broke a bracket and you tried to direct bond it back and you put it on wrong, or if you didn't get the patient involved in this step, right? So because they should know what it looks like and it should look like what it said. Or if you rush these too fast and you didn't let the wire get completely passive, that is the reason that you might have the issues here. And then you got to go back and you got to let it cook again. That's why I don't want you guys rushing these steps. Let the wires stay in. Let the wires take their job. It might take you 6 to 8 months in steps 2 and 3 if it's a very crowded case. And if you didn't do your expansion first, it might take longer. So that's the benefit of doing expansion first, is that you quickly get space and it's a lot faster. Now, a couple one-offs. If you had super blocked out teeth and you were unable to get the space with wires alone and you didn't do expander or something like this, you might have to put in an open coil spring, and that's going to be done in step 5. But then you're going to have to go back to steps 2 and 3. That's why I like to do expanders first, because it actually saves you time. And you can do the expanders without the braces on, and it's not a hygiene issue or anything like that. So step 5, we're going to be putting in the biggest possible rectangular niti. So usually I'm doing 018, could be a 1925, that you can fully engage to use for open coil springs, elastics, or space closure. So if you have gaps or you need to create space for a tooth, we're going to do this in step 5. Make sure it's a NiTi open coil spring. As far as stainless steel wires, I have a lot of content on why I really don't use those, because I don't do step bends, because I put my brackets on right to begin with and I get the patients involved, so I don't need step bends. I'd rather just repo a bracket. It's a lot faster, a lot more predictable, and there's a lot less problems. If you want to know why I really don't use, very rarely use steel wires, you can go into my channel and look up stainless steel or SS, and there should be wires on that. It's a one-off when I use steel wires. So put in your 18 or 1925, use your open coil spring, make your space for that bracket. Then you're gonna have to go back to step 2, put that bracket on, go back to the light wires, level in a Y, work your way up, do the check, take the x-ray. So that's gonna take a few months, okay? But if you have to do it, you have to do it. If you have gaps at this stage, this is where you're gonna use your anchorage and your proper mechanics to close the spaces in the right direction to make sure you still have class 1. That's something you're not, that's the hardest part about all this. So make sure you're working with the orthodontist on that so you don't screw that up. Again, if you did a proper diagnosis and treatment plan, this should be money. It should be fast and easy to close the spaces and be done. And guess what? Boom, you're done. This is it. You know, final guess and check, final show. Make sure that last wire stays in, 4 to 8 weeks at least, just to stabilize everything. And then, of course, third step of braces or of orthodontics is always retention. You have to have a decent retention plan. Retention is for a lifetime. You have to have something that's going to work for the patient, work for you, and work for what was the malocclusion and the bite. So strategize your retention well, strategize your retention philosophy and your aftercare protocol. You don't want things after you've done such a good job fixing them to relapse because they didn't either understand the value of it or you didn't design the proper retention. And I have entire playlists just on retention, as well as I can work with you one-on-one on these cases. So that's it. That's easy Straightwire sequence for braces. That was a lot of information. I think this is the last one of these videos I'm going to make because all the content is there. But honestly, you guys, it's confusing unless you work with an orthodontist on your first 5, 10, 15, 20 cases. Then you're going to get it. It's going to become much, much easier. So, and of course, if you're in mixed dentition, you're going to have to go back and be repeating steps 2 through 4 quite often as new teeth come in. So honestly, it's kind of just better just to stay in steps 2 and 3 and just wait. Or sometimes you guys are rushing putting on the braces and there really was no reason to start that early. Again, that's why I like expanders first, because you can do expanders before you put on the braces, make the space, and then the teeth often come up straight to begin with. Beauty of it. All right. Thanks so much.